Ten Hag was asked about who he would be as captain, and Harry Maguire as the captain. I have to get to know all the players, but he's an established captain and he's achieved a lot of success. Does that make sense?
Oh, wow.
You get the custard pie off your face.
Which bit's success? What's the success bit?
Well, yeah, so that's certainly...
Let me just get... I was going to mention Liverpool, but I was rudely interrupted. What was the Harry Maguire thing again?
He's going to be the captain.
Fed up looking at his face.
He's an established captain. He's achieved a lot of success.
I think Ten Hag needs... I honestly think he needs to answer these questions, and there's going to be lots of them, in a little bit more of a cute manner, a bit more clever. Because you can't be saying at the moment, definitely captain, he is my captain, he is a leader, he has done it. You don't know. We're weeks away from the season started. He was a disaster last year for club, right? And he was smarting from the criticism. He couldn't handle it. And none of us like criticism, but guess what? You're at Man United, you're playing poorly. The club have been in shambles, you're outside the top four. It's coming, and it's coming in waves. And I think at the moment to come out and say, yeah, this is what's happening and he's the leader and that, and then you have to change that.
Yeah.
If he continues the way it's been going, and he might not, you don't have to go down that pathway and it's a one-way street and you've sort of cornered yourself in at this moment in time. You've got to give yourself a bit of wiggle room before you have to go back and say, I know I talked to the press, but because that's just another problem in the dressing room. So he could just have said, look, we're still working on things.
Right.
We're still building the squad. I'm still figuring this out. We're in pre-season. I just think it's a bit early to be talking about a guy being captain who was awful last year. Stevie?
How many times have I said, when you're the coach and you're sat in a press conference, you don't answer anybody's question. You don't. You tell them what you want them to know. You don't answer questions. You don't be open and honest. I mean, he's shown a little bit of naivety here, be answering questions like that openly and honestly. He's got no obligation to tell them anything other than just whatever he fancies telling them. Keep your cards close to your chest, tell them nothing, get through your press conference and move on. Because all they're doing is they're just loading their guns with ammo. So 3 games into the season, it'll be, well, why did you make Harry Maguire captain when you knew he was rubbish last year at being a captain and blah, blah, blah. I'm sick of saying it. Keep your mouth closed. Get through your press conference. Tell them nothing. Because it's easy. It's easy. Somebody's going to have a word in his ear because it's going to come back and bite
listen,
him.
we've got you a ticket to fly out there on the tour. No, Ronaldo can't be there, but you can be there
honestly
to tell him how to handle the media.
And it's like I said, tell them what you want them to know, not what they want to know. And if you stick by that, you'll be fine.
Stevie Nichols media classes.
I like it. I like it. Stevie,
LLC.
Stevie in Thailand would be a great Netflix special. Naden, looking at it, does it actually make a difference who's captain?
I think it does. I think it does, especially given the sort of history that United have had now. Because as we're alluding to there, Harry Maguire had a particularly tough season for the club last season, and there was a lot of criticism levelled at him. So for a manager to fully back him from the get-go, there are immediately questions being asked. Like, that's why they asked him that question. Is he going to be your captain next year? Because they know the situation that just came. And also with Ronaldo being there, for now at least, the wonder was, would it be someone like him? But I think really the bigger question for me is, if it's not going to be Maguire, then who are the other sort of like captain sort of figures that exist within that squad? And if it's a case of, well, he doesn't know anybody better right now and there's nobody who hasn't come in yet, then what we're thinking about Manchester United, because, Harry Maguire has been relatively successful for United across the years and he has done well for them through some period, just not last year. But who would replace him? Do they have 2 or 3 candidates? And I think in some ways, you could argue that's sort of an indictment on the sort of squad setup that they have right now, because there are people who probably aspire to be that. But if Harry Maguire is still the #1 candidate right now, then clearly, maybe something needs to be changed.
But Nate, couldn't you just give it to, like, De Gea? Boom, done, now that's done. De Gea's fine. He's going to play every game. You know what you're going to get from him. And that kind of just takes all this fire away from Harry Maguire.
Well, it doesn't really, because now questions will be asked to Harry Maguire all the time. How do you feel about losing the captaincy? that storm in itself is something that maybe he's trying to avoid. And, I agree with what Stevie's saying. Like, some of these press conferences, people have got their question lined up. They've been preparing it all day to try and catch you out and make you say something sensational. Well, just say nothing. With the Maguire situation, say we're reviewing it, we'll see. Like, the bit where he said he's getting to know his players, that's great. But then say, he's my captain, but I'm getting to know my players. Like, what do you want? And as I say, he could give it to De Gea right now. But then, as I said, everyone will be talking about, why is Harry Maguire not the captain anymore? Is it because you don't think he's good enough? And before you know it, Harry Maguire is being linked with a move away from Man United. There's discontent, blah, blah, blah. And then we're in this whole sort of like circus again where Manchester United then end up being the laughing stock in the news cycle. So, it's a strange position for them to be in, a strange quote for him to put out, because in some ways, as Stevie said, did he need to say it?
Just say I go back to it. Just say you're evaluating the squad. Nobody cares. Right?
But you always say, like, it doesn't really matter who the captain is anyway.
Well, I think at a big club it's important to have a leader. They've always had it at United, and they had it at Chelsea with John Terry for years. They've had leaders at Liverpool. They've always had leaders going back to, obviously Brian Robson, Steve Bruce, Roy Keane. The list goes on. Let's get a sensible head on here, for God's sake. Harry Maguire, trust me, has got way more to worry about at this football club than whether he's the captain of it or not. He's got to worry about whether he's playing in the starting 11. Because at times he wasn't last year. He was dropped. All right, Ranić was a bit of a joke, but so was he. And I'll give it to you, he's played well for England. And Southgate trusts him. But we're not talking about England, we're talking about Man United. And if I was advising Harry Maguire, I'd say, forget anything about captaincy. You need to worry about what you're producing on the field. You need to play in the manner in which you did for Leicester City, that made Man City and Man United chase you. Both these clubs chased him. United were prepared to pay more money, and City were not. But they both chased him. And they chased him because he was playing well at the time. And I think that's the important thing for a player. And I think the captaincy is... And if he's worried about the captaincy, then he's stuffed. Right. Because he hasn't got his priorities right. His priorities are the way he's played for United. If it continues, Erik, Ten Hag will drop him. Drop him. And that's why, at this moment in time, he shouldn't be talking. It could be Lindelof and Varane. Right. It could be anybody. He might put Scott McTominay back there because he's desperate. You just don't know. And so I just feel, at this moment in time, there is nobody in that United team you should be talking about as captain. You should blow these questions away and say, I'm evaluating this, and from Harry Maguire's perspective, he's got way more things to worry about than whether he's pulling the armband on. He's got to worry about getting on that field.
To that point, Stevie, how do you deal with Maguire if you're Ten Hag?
Well, as far as pre-season's concerned, you really, again, I wish you hadn't said, right now, he's my captain, blah, blah, blah. Really what you're doing if you're Ten Hag is you're evaluating everybody. And you're evaluating Harry Maguire in particular, how he's playing. Is he sharp? Is he fit? Is he confident? Does he look as though he's got the worry of Manchester on his shoulders? These are the things that Ten Hag needs to do in pre-season. And then when the first game of the season comes round, then you decide who your captain is. And that's given you, what, 2 months? And you figure out who it is. And your captain has to be a guy who's consistent, who's sensible, who's got a level head, who's the leader. There's a lot of things that you need to be a captain, not just the best player. And so he has these 2 months to figure out who is the best captain. And it doesn't matter who was the captain previous to him going there, because that has nothing to do with Ten Hag. And that's why, in particular, he should have steered well clear of it, because he has to decide in this pre-season who he thinks his captain is.
Nathan?
I was going to say, so this conversation is now brought me back to a place where in my career, I think I probably had 13 managers. And for most of the ones that came in, they said, this is a clean slate. What came before doesn't matter. But I'd like to know from sort of Craig and Stevie, do they even believe that? Like, we're talking about Maguire and if he's going to be the right captain for United going forward and alike. But is Ten Hag really going to only judge him on what he's seen in pre-season? Because surely, that can't be the case, because you must have seen United before you came. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, but the thing is, Dedon, when you're evaluating somebody, it's one thing to sit behind a TV screen and watch the football every weekend and then try and figure out about somebody. It's not until you're coaching them, when you're with them, when you're talking to them, when you see how they're interacting with people at the club and outside the club. It's the whole package, and until you figure out what this person's all about, that's when you can decide whether he's the captain or not. So yes, you know, he is walking into a clean slate because he doesn't know the players. He doesn't know the characters particularly. All he knows is what he sees on the football field from watching the television pretty much. So it is important that it is a clean slate and he decides on what he sees and his interactions with Harry Maguire or anybody else.
Are we putting... See, I got in quick there before somebody dropped the graphic. I'm on my toes now.
That's it.
I'm watching. Just waiting for that screen changing. The screen's in. At the end of the day, if he evaluated him, look, he would have watched Man United last year, but if he saw anything impressive from Harry Maguire, or quite a few others last year, and he's not the only one.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN Plus.